Some families vanish without a trace. Others leave behind evidence so horrifying that investigators wish they had never found it. The Johnson family didn't just disappear. They were erased. 8 souls wiped from existence in a single night. When police finally discovered what happened, the truth was buried beneath concrete in the darkest corner of their own basement. This is the story of a family that trusted the wrong person. A story of betrayal so deep that it ended in unspeakable horror. Not every smile hides kindness. Sometimes it hides a monster. Bakersfield, a quiet town in northern Ohio, was the kind of place where people knew their neighbors, where families left their doors unlocked and children played in the streets until dark. It was a town where nothing bad ever happened. Until October 2009. That was when the Johnson family stopped answering their phone, stopped showing up to church, stopped existing. For 3 weeks, their white 2-story house sat silent on Maple Street. The grass grew long. The mail piled up. And nobody knew that inside that home, beneath the concrete floor of the basement, 8 bodies lay cold and forgotten. This is the story of how an entire family was murdered, and how their killer almost got away with it. Marcus and Linda Johnson were Bakersfield's golden couple. Marcus, 42, worked as a high school math teacher at Bakersfield High. He coached the basketball team and never missed a game. Linda, 39, was a nurse at County General Hospital. She worked the day shift so she could be home when the kids got out of school. Everyone who knew them said the same thing. They were good people. The kind of people who brought cookies to new neighbors and shoveled snow from elderly folks' driveways. The Johnsons had 6 children. Emma was 16, a straight-A student who dreamed of becoming a doctor like her mom. Tyler was 14, quiet and artistic, always sketching in his notebook. The twins, Sophie and Sarah, were 11. They were inseparable, finishing each other's sentences and sharing everything. Then came little Jackson, who was 7 and obsessed with dinosaurs. And finally, baby Grace, just 3 years old, with blonde curls and a smile that could light up a room. Their home on Maple Street was always full of life. Neighbors could hear laughter spilling out of windows on warm summer nights. The smell of Linda's famous chocolate chip cookies often drifted across the yard. They were the perfect family, said Margaret Holmes, who lived next door for 15 years. Linda would wave to me every morning when she left for work. Marcus would help my husband fix his car. Those kids were so polite and well-behaved. You just don't see families like that anymore. But perfection is often an illusion. Behind closed doors, the Johnsons were facing problems that nobody knew about. Marcus had been diagnosed with early-stage cancer 6 months before they disappeared. The medical bills were piling up. Linda had taken extra shifts at the hospital, but it wasn't enough. They had quietly borrowed money from friends and family. They had taken out a second mortgage on their house. And they had made one decision that would cost them everything. They had asked Linda's brother for help. David Mitchell was Linda's younger brother. At 35 years old, David had never quite found his place in the world. He had dropped out of college after 1 semester. He moved from job to job, never staying anywhere longer than a few months. He had been married once, but his wife left him after 2 years, taking their young son with her. David blamed everyone else for his problems. His ex-wife was too demanding. His bosses were unfair. His family didn't support him enough. But Linda had always stood by her brother. She was the only one who still believed in him. When David lost his job at the local factory in 2008, Linda convinced Marcus to let him move into their basement. It was supposed to be temporary, just until David got back on his feet. He would help with rent and utilities. He would be there to watch the kids when Linda and Marcus both had to work. It seemed like a perfect arrangement. David had always been good with the children. He played video games with Tyler and taught Emma how to change a tire. He read bedtime stories to little Grace in funny voices that made her giggle. The neighbors saw him as part of the family. David was always around, said Tom Peterson, who lived across the street. He seemed like a nice guy, a little quiet, maybe, but he loved those kids. At least, that's what we all thought. But there were signs, small things that people would remember only after it was too late. David had a temper that could flare up without warning. He once punched a hole in the basement wall after losing a video game. Linda laughed it off, saying he was just competitive. Marcus wasn't so sure. He had started to notice the way David looked at him sometimes. Cold, resentful, like Marcus was the enemy. Money was the breaking point. In September 2009, Marcus asked David to start paying rent. David had been living in their basement for over a year, rent-free. Marcus and Linda were drowning in medical bills. They needed help. David exploded. He accused Marcus of being greedy, of taking advantage of him, of trying to kick him out onto the street. The argument was so loud that Margaret Holmes heard it through the walls. "I heard shouting," she later told police. David was yelling something about how Marcus owed him, how the whole family owed him. It scared me a little. After that night, David became different, quieter. He stopped eating dinner with the family. He stayed in the basement most of the time, only coming upstairs when necessary. Linda tried to smooth things over, but David wouldn't talk to her. Marcus told Linda they needed to ask David to leave. He had a bad feeling about the whole situation, but Linda couldn't bring herself to do it. David was her brother, her baby brother. She thought she could fix things. She thought she had more time. The first week of October was strange. The Johnson children seemed tired at school. Emma fell asleep during chemistry class, which was unusual for her. Tyler stopped turning in his homework. When teachers asked if everything was okay at home, the kids said they were fine. Just busy. Their parents were working a lot. Nothing to worry about. Linda called in sick to work on October 8th. She never called in sick. Her supervisor, Karen Mills, tried calling her back to check on her. Linda didn't answer. Karen left a voicemail. Linda never returned the call. Marcus didn't show up to basketball practice that same day. The assistant coach tried texting him. No response. It was like Marcus to miss practice without calling. The children stopped going to school on October 9th. The attendance office called the Johnson house multiple times. Nobody picked up. A truancy officer was assigned to do a home visit, but it would take a few days to schedule. By then, it would be too late. Margaret Holmes noticed the house was too quiet. Usually, she could hear the kids playing in the backyard. She could hear music from Emma's room. She could hear baby Grace laughing. But now there was nothing, just silence. The curtains stayed closed all day and all night. The cars sat in the driveway, unmoving. Margaret thought about knocking on the door to check on them, but she didn't want to seem nosy. She would regret that decision for the rest of her life. David's car was gone. Nobody saw him leave, but his beat-up blue sedan was no longer parked on the street where he usually left it. Some neighbors assumed the whole family had gone on vacation, but that didn't make sense. The Johnsons always told people when they were going away. They always asked someone to water their plants and collect their mail. This time, they had said nothing. Fast forward to October 15th. The mail was overflowing from the mailbox. Newspapers were piling up on the front porch. The grass was nearly a foot tall. Margaret Holmes finally called the police. "Something is wrong at the Johnson house," she told the dispatcher. "I haven't seen them in over a week. It's not like them." And then on October 16th, 2009, everything changed. Officer Jamie Rodriguez arrives at 447 Maple Street just after 9 in the morning. The house looks normal from the outside. A little messy, maybe, but normal. She knocks on the front door. No answer. She knocks again, harder this time. Still nothing. She walks around to the back door and tries knocking there. The curtains are drawn. She can't see inside. Officer Rodriguez calls for backup. Something feels wrong. She can feel it in her gut. Detective Mark Sullivan arrives 20 minutes later with a warrant to enter the home. They try the front door. It's locked. They try the back door. Also locked. Detective Sullivan makes the call. They're going in. The locksmith breaks the front door open at 10:15 a.m. Officer Rodriguez enters first, her hand on her weapon. The smell hits her immediately. It's faint, but it's there. Something sweet and rotten, hidden beneath the scent of cleaning products. "Police. Is anyone home?" she calls out. Silence. The living room is neat. Too neat. The couch cushions are perfectly arranged. The coffee table is spotless. There are no toys on the floor, which is strange for a house with 6 children. Detective Sullivan notices something else. There are cleaning supplies on the kitchen counter. Bleach, ammonia, rubber gloves, a bucket with pink-tinged water still sitting in the sink. They search the upstairs bedrooms. Emma's room is untouched. Her bed is made. Her books are stacked neatly on her desk. Tyler's room is the same. The twins' room shows no signs of a struggle. Jackson's dinosaur toys are lined up on his shelf. Grace's crib is empty, but her favorite stuffed rabbit is still there, sitting on the pillow. Detective Sullivan opens the basement door. The smell is stronger here. He flips the light switch. The stairs creak as he descends into the darkness. Officer Rodriguez follows close behind, her flashlight cutting through the shadows. The basement looks like someone had been living there. There's a bed in the corner with unmade sheets, a small TV on a folding table, empty food containers scattered around. But there's something else. In the far corner of the basement, there's a patch of fresh concrete. It's darker than the rest of the floor. Newer, recently poured. Detective Sullivan's blood runs cold. He knows what this means. He calls the station. "We need a K9 unit here. Now," and call the coroner. The cadaver dog arrives within the hour. A German shepherd named Duke, who is trained to detect the scent of human remains. Duke enters the basement and goes straight to the fresh concrete. He sits down and barks. The signal. There are bodies underneath. The excavation begins that same afternoon. Workers carefully break through the concrete with jackhammers. Inch by inch they dig. The smell becomes overpowering. Investigators have to wear masks just to breathe. And then they find them. 8 bodies, buried in a shallow grave beneath the basement floor. Marcus and Linda Johnson. Emma, Tyler, Sophie, Sarah, Jackson, and baby Grace. All together. All gone. The medical examiner would later determine that they had been dead for at least a week. The cause of death for all 8 victims was blunt force trauma to the head. They had been killed quickly, one after another, in the middle of the night. They probably never knew what was happening. The scene told a terrible story. The killer had attacked them while they slept. He moved through the house, room by room, ending each life with brutal efficiency. Marcus and Linda were killed in their bed. The children were killed in theirs. Even baby Grace, just 3 years old, was not spared. After the murders, the killer had spent hours cleaning the house, wiping down surfaces, removing evidence, and then he had buried them in the basement and poured fresh concrete over their bodies. He had tried to make them disappear forever. The investigation moves fast once the bodies are discovered. Detective Sullivan knows this is the worst crime Bakersfield has ever seen. The FBI is called in to help. News crews descend on the quiet town like vultures. Maple Street becomes a circus of satellite trucks and reporters shouting questions at anyone who will listen. The first question investigators ask is simple. Who will want to kill an entire family? Marcus and Linda had no enemies. They were beloved in their community. The children were innocent. This wasn't a robbery gone wrong. Nothing was stolen from the house. The family's wallets, jewelry, and electronics were all still there. This was personal. Detective Sullivan reviews the evidence. The fresh concrete is the key. Whoever killed the Johnsons had access to the basement. They had time to bury the bodies and cover their tracks. They knew the family's routine. They knew when to strike. This wasn't a stranger. This was someone close. We started looking at family members and close friends. Detective Sullivan told reporters at a press conference 3 days after the discovery. We wanted to know who had been in that house recently, who had access, who might have had a motive. David Mitchell's name comes up immediately. Linda's brother, the man who had been living in the basement for over a year, the man who had argued with Marcus about money just weeks before the family disappeared. Investigators try to locate him. His phone is disconnected. His car is missing. David Mitchell has vanished. The FBI issues a nationwide alert. David Mitchell is wanted for questioning in connection with the deaths of 8 people. His photo is shown on every news channel. Tips start pouring in. Someone saw a man matching his description at a gas station in Kentucky. Another caller says they saw him at a motel in Tennessee. But each lead turns into a dead end. Forensic teams comb through the basement where David had been living. They find his fingerprints everywhere, but that's not surprising. He lived there. What they do find is more disturbing. Hidden under David's mattress, they discover a notebook. Inside are pages and pages of angry writings. Rants about Marcus. About how Marcus was controlling and ungrateful. About how the family owed David everything. On the last page, dated October 7th, 2009, David had written 5 words. They will all pay soon. Investigators also find financial records. David had been stealing money from Linda's purse for months. Small amounts at first. $20 here, $50 there. But it added up. He had also been using Marcus's credit card without permission. When Marcus discovered the theft and confronted him, David had denied everything. The argument on September 30th wasn't just about rent. It was about betrayal. The medical examiner's report reveals more horrifying details. All 8 victims were killed with the same weapon, a metal baseball bat that was found hidden in the basement rafters. The bat had been wiped clean, but luminol tests revealed traces of blood. DNA testing confirmed it belonged to the Johnson family. The timeline becomes clear. On the night of October 7th, David Mitchell waited until everyone was asleep. He took the baseball bat and moved through the house silently. He killed Marcus and Linda first, ensuring they couldn't fight back or protect their children. Then he went room by room, ending each child's life. The whole thing probably took less than 30 minutes. After the murders, David spent the next day cleaning the house and burying the bodies. He poured the concrete on October 8th. By October 9th, he was gone. The community is shattered. Candlelight vigils are held every night for a week. Hundreds of people gather in the town square, holding photos of the Johnson family and crying together. How could this happen here? Asked Pastor Michael Brown, who had known the Johnsons for 10 years. This was a family that gave so much to our community. They didn't deserve this. Nobody deserves this. The manhunt for David Mitchell continues. FBI agents trace his movements through bank transactions and security camera footage. He withdrew money from an ATM in Indiana on October 10th. He bought gas in Illinois on October 12th. He was running, but he had made a mistake. He had used his debit card, leaving a trail that law enforcement could follow. On October 29th, 2009, nearly 3 weeks after murders, police in Montana pull over a blue sedan with Ohio license plates. The driver matches a description of David Mitchell. When officers approach the vehicle and ask for identification, David tries to run. He doesn't get far. He is tackled to the ground and arrested. In the trunk of his car, police find a duffel bag containing $8,000 in cash, stolen from the Johnson home, and a change of clothes still stained with blood. David Mitchell is extradited back to Ohio to face 8 counts of first-degree murder. His arraignment is held on November 5th, 2009. He pleads not guilty, claiming he had nothing to do with the deaths. His public defender argues that the evidence is circumstantial, that anyone could have killed the family and framed David. But the prosecution has a mountain of evidence against him. The trial begins in March 2010. The courtroom is packed every single day. Family members of the Johnsons sit in the front row, their faces blank with grief. The prosecution, led by District Attorney Rachel Green, presents their case methodically. They show the jury photos of the crime scene. They play the 911 call from Margaret Holmes. They bring in the medical examiner to testify about the brutal nature of the murders. David Mitchell lived in that house for over a year. D.A. Green tells the jury during her opening statement. The Johnson family took him in when he had nowhere else to go. They fed him. They gave him a place to sleep. And how did he repay their kindness? He murdered them in their sleep. All 8 of them, including 3-year-old Grace Johnson, who called him Uncle David. The defense tries to create reasonable doubt. They argue that David had no real motive to kill his sister and her family, that the notebook found under his mattress was just angry venting, not a plan for murder, that anyone could have stolen his debit card and used it after the murders. But the evidence is overwhelming. The most powerful moment of the trial comes during the victim impact statements. Linda's mother, Margaret Mitchell, takes a stand. She is 72 years old, her hair completely white, her hands shaking as she holds a tissue. "I lost my daughter," she says, her voice breaking. "I lost my grandchildren. All of them. Gone in one night because of my own son. How do I live with that? How do I wake up every morning knowing that the boy I raise is a monster?" Marcus's brother, Stephen Johnson, speaks next. "Marcus was my best friend," he says, tears streaming down his face. "Those kids were my nieces and nephews. I watched them grow up. I was supposed to protect them. We all were. And we failed." David Mitchell didn't just kill 8 people. He destroyed dozens of lives. Everyone who loved the Johnsons is broken because of what he did. The jury deliberates for only 6 hours. On April 2nd, 2010, they return with a verdict: guilty on all 8 counts of first-degree murder. The courtroom erupts in a mix of sobs and applause. David Mitchell shows no emotion as the verdict is read. He stares straight ahead, his face blank. The sentencing hearing is held 2 weeks later. The prosecution asks for the death penalty. The defense pleads for life in prison without parole. The judge, the Honorable Patricia Williams, listens to both sides before making her decision. "David Mitchell," she says, looking directly at him, "you committed the most heinous crime this county has ever seen. You murdered 8 innocent people, including 5 children. You betrayed your own family in the worst way imaginable. I hereby sentence you to 8 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole." David Mitchell will spend the rest of his life in prison. He will never see the outside world again. Many people felt the sentence was too light. They wanted the death penalty. They wanted David to suffer the way the Johnsons suffered. But for the family members left behind, it didn't matter. No sentence could bring back the people they loved. David Mitchell is now serving his sentence at the Mansfield Correctional Institution in Ohio. He has been in prison for over 15 years. He has never shown any remorse for what he did. In fact, in a prison interview conducted in 2015, David said he still believes he was treated unfairly by the Johnson family. "They used me," he told the interviewer. "I did what I had to do." The house on 447 Maple Street stands empty. Nobody wanted to live there after what happened. The property was eventually sold at auction for a fraction of its value. The new owners tore down the house in 2012 and built a small memorial garden in its place. There are 8 stones arranged in a circle, each one engraved with the name of a Johnson family member. Flowers are left there every week by people who never forgot. Bakersfield, Ohio, has never been the same. The town that once prided itself on being safe and peaceful is now known for one of the worst family murders in American history. "We lost our innocence that day," said Mayor Robert Chun in a 2019 interview. "We used to leave our doors unlocked. We used to trust our neighbors. Now we're afraid. We look at people differently. The Johnsons were our friends, our neighbors, our family, and they were taken from us in the most horrible way. The surviving family members have tried to move on, but the pain never truly goes away." Margaret Mitchell, Linda's mother, passed away in 2018. Those who knew her said she never recovered from losing her daughter and grandchildren. Stephen Johnson, Marcus's brother, became an advocate for victims of violent crime. He speaks at schools and community events about the importance of recognizing warning signs of violence. "If you see something, say something," he tells audiences. "Don't ignore red flags. Don't assume everything is fine." The Johnsons ignored the warning signs with David. It cost them everything. Questions still remain. Could this tragedy have been prevented? Should Marcus and Linda have kicked David out of their house when he first showed signs of violent behavior? Should neighbors have called the police sooner when the family went silent? Should the school have done more when the children stopped showing up? These are questions that haunt everyone who is connected to this case. The truth is that evil can hide in plain sight. David Mitchell seemed like a normal person to most people who knew him. He played with his nieces and nephews. He smiled and made jokes. But underneath that mask was a man filled with rage and entitlement. A man who believed the world owed him something. And when he didn't get what he wanted, he took the most innocent lives imaginable. The Johnson family deserved better. They deserve to watch their children grow up. They deserve to celebrate birthdays and holidays together. They deserve to grow old surrounded by love. Instead, they were erased by someone they trusted, someone they welcomed into their home. This case reminds us that we never truly know what someone is capable of. It reminds us to pay attention to the warning signs, to trust our instincts when something feels wrong, and most importantly, to cherish the people we love, because tomorrow is never guaranteed. What do you think? Was David Mitchell's sentence fair, or should he have received the death penalty? Could this tragedy have been prevented if someone had acted sooner? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If this story impacted you, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more true crime stories. Thank you for watching, and please hug your loved ones a little tighter tonight.